Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine.
That's
I really
good.
have nothing else to say.
Hey, you know what? Fine is good. I will take that.
Doing better than Vision. How about we'll say that?
Yeah. Doing better than Vision. Doing better than Wanda.
Yeah, I do miss having a Batwoman episode to discuss tonight.
Yeah, but well, you know, I know Black Lightning is premiering tonight, so we are getting additional shows back, and then of course, we had the second trailer for Superman and Lois, which it seems like they're completely like rebooting that character from what we've seen in Supergirl. So that
it's going to be February is going to be a weird month because by the end of it, a lot of the mainstay shows are going to be back for what has been the longest hiatus ever.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, we managed to fill the time with content. So
we did. we stretched our podcasting muscles.
Yeah. Some headlines before we get into WandaVision, because dear Lord, how long can we talk about WandaVision in that episode? Watchmen scriptwriter Stacy, you just put this in here without any forewarning that I have to pronounce this name.
You read the story over the weekend. You like retweeted it, so I figured you.
I like. Trust me.
OC.
Okay. For listeners who are unaware, if Sarah retweets something, it does not mean she read it. The headline.
Well, I think her name was in the headline. I can't recall from the deadline. Yeah, but anyway.
OC Kapoor.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
OC Kapoor.
Yeah.
Named to write the screenplay for the upcoming Blade movie. She wasn't she in a certain writer's room? She was. What writer's room?
Was in.
Okay. Let's go back. Okay. Stacy. See, now I can't pronounce the name. O.C. Kapoor, who is from the Watchmen writer's room, is named to write the screenplay for the upcoming Blade movie.
Yep.
I hope to God Blade doesn't become the Shazam of Marvel.
No. I was thinking it would be something more grounded Marvel.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying genre. I'm saying more of we were promised Shazam in 2014.
Oh, true.
All right,
true.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean. I am all over. I'm really thrown off right now. I'm talking about Black Adam.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No.
And also in Shazam news, Henry Cavill will appear.
You want to start over?
No. I don't want to go back. I can't go back. It's already been done, Will. It's already been done.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there is Cavill's not going to be in Shazam 2. But yeah, going back to Blade just for a quick moment. Yeah, she was in the writer's room, and I guess what's notable about this is she's the first African American woman screenwriter for any of the Marvel films, and then of course we know Nia DaCosta is first Black woman director, and of course we had Ryan Coogler, who was obviously Black Panther. So the MCU is getting a little more diverse behind the camera.
I'm so fearful of these headlines. No, when I saw the headline that said this, I was very happy because we both know Watchmen, excellent written series, to say the least. I mean, above, like, that is pretty much a perfect season of television. So totally. I am thrilled about this. I just, again, like things to happen sooner than later. Yeah. So yeah. It kind of does worry me that they got Mahershala Mahershala to sign without a script, you know?
Yeah.
Like, interesting how they casted that guy before even just telling him what he'll be doing.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, you sign a talented writer like this, and I'm sure it's going to be really good.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the MCU at this point, we're so deep into this franchise that they attract A-list talent left and right. So I think if you're an actor at this point, you can sign a contract with them knowing that you're probably going to get some pretty good material to work with. They're not going to put you out there to fail. Yeah,
they don't like to repeat mistakes twice.
No, definitely not.
Thor 1, Thor 2. No.
yeah. They learned. They course corrected very quickly.
Third one's the charm.
Yep.
All right. In other news, MCU related, according to Luminod Nerdy, that's a horrible name, Sony has offered Keanu Reeves the role of Kraven the Hunter in the new Spider-Man movie, villains, solo spinoff. So he's going to be first in his own solo movie?
Yeah.
Is that what you're say with that?
I think, Sony has been like, obviously they've had the, Morbius delayed again, speaking of things that may never see the light of day. And also, of course, we've had, Venom 1 and of course Venom 2 is on its way. So I think they're obviously working through the various Spider-Man villains and of course Kraven's the next one. Now, obviously, I haven't seen anything beyond this particular fan site report this, but they've apparently had a pretty good track record of like stuff, so we shall see. I mean, it just said it's been offered, so this is one of those things where it's like offered, meaning like, oh yeah, I heard my friend say, Keanu got offered this role. So, but I have seen it. I've seen it reported in several spots. Utilizing this particular source. So maybe we'll get a confirmation later this week.
So what is with this Flash, Tom Holland on Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire?
So y'all, we're doing show prep as we record. So Tom Holland over the weekend, I guess like last Friday, he had an interview with Variety where he had an interview talking about Spider-Man 3 and then also his other film coming up. Yeah. And so they asked the question about, of course, Tom's notorious for like spoiling stuff. So they asked him about, casting Andrew and Toby, have they been seen on set? And he was like, if they have been, this is news to me. So he kind of downplayed it in the interview, but he did say that this particular Spider-Man film is the most ambitious of a very ambitious film that they're putting together.
Yeah, well, the cast list certainly sounds ambitious. So,
yeah.
And all of the hype now with all of the rumors circulating, it's like you better, if you're not going to deliver this, then whatever you do have in store better be on par. So, which Spider-Man, I don't know if we want to get into that, but it's whenever Spider-Man happens, it will happen. We'll see it. We'll assess from there. Yeah. Golden Globe and SAG nominations came out. Yeah, get a chance to look at the list, Will?
I did. Okay. Yeah, I did. I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to give your thoughts on any of them.
So I looked at both lists. I think that it's interesting. One film that stuck out to me was, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Marion.
Yeah.
Marion. And I've heard a lot about this film, and I'm very excited for whenever I get to see it. But it's interesting with the Golden Globes. They they kind of just stuck it under foreign language film, and neither the leading actor or actress got nominations, from what I could tell.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that. Yeah.
But in SAG, they did, and their ensemble got nominated, and the movie itself got nominated. So it's just like that. That was a big difference that I noticed.
Yeah.
Along with a few other things, but.
Yeah. I know with I guess in the Best Picture category too. In addition to that one, I guess the Globes had like The Father and Mank and Nomadland and Promising Young Women, of course, Trial of the Chicago 7, but then the SAG Awards had Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and The Five Bloods and One Night in Miami. Yep. And so the only one that was in both Best Picture categories was Trial of the Chicago 7. So, yeah, it was very interesting to see the, I guess the SAG Awards, they are, it is the Screen Actors Guild. So this is, many of the peers are the ones who are making these recommendations and nominations for these films and voting in these categories versus the foreign press that does the Globe. So, and to your point about the other Minari, I think as I pronounce it, showing up in the foreign film category versus, the Best Picture. Yeah, it's just interesting to see how the different audiences who select these awards, make their nominations and stuff. And then, of course, I saw where the Critics' Choice came out today, and they had like everything, and they also included The Sound of Metal. So
yeah, I've seen The Sound of Metal. I watched Malcolm and Marie over the weekend. Really like that. And I need to watch Ma Rainey, and I need to watch Promising Young Woman, because Promising Young Woman, I will be a little shocked from what I can tell if Carey Mulligan doesn't get an award.
Yeah. I watched Ma Rainey over the weekend and really, really enjoyed it. It's an amazing film. Chadwick was obviously great in it, but also Viola Davis. I mean, she brings it all the time too. It was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. And also just thinking at the SAG list as far as One Night in Miami. I know we both watched that one too, and I was happy to see it. It being nominated. Of course, I think Regina King was also nominated for Best Director. I think of the Globes and the SAG for that film as well. So, and I know the SAG, I guess, has a better track record of like being a more Oscar predictor. So we'll see when we get to Oscar nominations how all these three other award shows compares to the Oscar nominations that will come later, I guess.
It just feels so weird for it to be February and to not even have Oscar nominations yet.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I guess the show got pushed back to April, and then I think the SAG is in April as well, and I guess the Globes is later, just I guess in a couple weeks. So, but it does seem weird. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there's been plenty of times when the Oscars have taken place on my birthday, so it's just so weird to me.
Yeah.
But it is February, but March is around the corner. And with March comes Falcon Winter Soldier, who dropped a new trailer during the Super Bowl. And Will and I, of course, missed the trailer, and so we watched it on YouTube.
Yep, watched it on YouTube, and I'm really looking forward to this series. And I guess it's part of it is I guess more comfortable MCU fare maybe than the more conceptual WandaVision, but even beyond that, just to see the bromance of Bucky and Falcon, just that on screen again, and we get a comic accurate Baron, and of course we get the U.S. agent, which I know they like keep teasing this character, but they haven't shown him yet in any of the trailers. So, but they keep touching on U.S. Agent. So it'll be interesting to see if they which route they go with that particular character, because of course, after when in the comic when Steve retired from being captain, there's two different variations. One was U.S. Agent was like super patriot who was kind of a Homelander-esque character as far as how he took on the mantle of Captain America, and then there was also the other version where he was recruited by the government and was bred to be like Cap and was stronger than Cap, but still not as strong as some of the other Marvel characters. So yeah, I really enjoyed the trailer. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
I think this should have been the first trailer, because it showed a lot of my complaints about the original trailer was there was little interaction between these two characters, and we already know they have great on-screen chemistry.
Yep. And
it also there was a lot more action, and it felt more on par with what I expected. There's momentum in this trailer that I think was lacking in the original trailer. I mean, they had the great sequence with Falcon in the sky and all of their CGI money.
yeah, it's got the movie picture budget.
But I think with this one, it felt very on par with Fast and Furious, but in a scale version. I like the moment with Sharon Carter. Mm-hmm. And you're right, they are holding back, but I need them to hold back, because between both trailers, I already get the feeling I've seen too much, and so I don't want them to show what they're hiding, and I'm looking forward to March at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well, and we'll WandaVision will end shortly before, and then I keep hearing these rumors of like there's a ghost episode of Wanda that may drop at 10th episode, so maybe not, but if there is, awesome, because that means we'll have a continual MCU watch in the beginning of 2021, so to make up for what we didn't get last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because someone I know disowned MCU at the very start of this year and was like, I don't like WandaVision.
I know. I told, and I also said, you can hold me to it, and you are, that I would probably come back around by the 4th or 5th episode, and here we are.
So I think why this episode works so much more for me is because I grew up watching old episodes of 80s sitcoms. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the way that they integrated these sitcom beats into this episode to escalate the dramatic irony from what's actually happening, the reality of Wanda and Vision's situation, I was completely entranced by throughout that episode. I mean, from the point with the opening song and the creepiest Vision I've ever seen, which was Baby Vision, that creeped me out so much. It just it was so weird.
It was, it was
a purple Chucky doll.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, and as things are developing, you have that moment where the dog dies, which is such a classic moment in those shows. It
really is. It really is.
Oh, to the best moment with let's escalate the situation and then roll credits.
Yeah.
And the fact that the scene kept going and then they stopped the credits and they really kept going. I was just this is why they decided to go this route. And I was so impressed by the way they did this episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think as I was telling a friend of mine over the weekend, and we were talking about the show, and I got what they did, and I even said at the very beginning, even I was very down on it because at first, but I did give them kudos for the concept and how they have structured this, using the sitcom as a means to show Wanda's grieving of Vision, and now of course we see her brother, and she really hasn't had an opportunity because she did disappear in the blip, so to really process all the stuff that happened and to her from, and so that I felt, and I told my friend, I was like, yeah, I know those first two episodes were the Dick Van Dyke and the Bewitched thing, and I remember watching those growing up, and I thought they did integrate those into it, but it was a slow burn. But I really felt that the payoff was starting in that third episode, and then you're right. I mean, I think given that the 80s sitcom is such such a well-known trope, because you're right. I mean, this is more recent in time to us, and more and grew up watching these things. So yeah, there were a lot of just constructs they had in the episodes that really with really showing how Wanda is losing control of Westview, and placing those moments into the 80s sitcom construct. Really, yeah, I mean, that was like, was a huge payoff for me. Definitely, this is definitely my favorite, most to date, my most favorite episode of the series, and for all the things that just shared, and I really liked how they use Agnes in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, I mean, not only just from the jazzercise, but how how she was sort of that foil, because when the boys, first got Sparky, and she shows up on cue with the little puppy house and stuff, and then whenever the disappointment and stuff happened and the boys aged themselves up, whenever Wanda and Vision were having their dialogue about things, Agnes being in the room was like, oh yeah, she know, it reminds us that she definitely knows what's going on here in this story.
Right.
And so, that was one moment. And then of course the other moment when they had let's take it from the top, with the recut of whenever she broke character, whenever Wanda and Vision were having the moment where they're trying to soothe Billy and Tommy, was another great way to like break character and remind and use that to show how, yes, Wanda is controlling a lot of things, but Agnes, it gives credence to the theory that this is Mephisto who is actually throwing in some wild cards into Westview to mess with Wanda, to help continue her mental decline.
Yeah, Mephisto or Dormammu. I mean, either one of them could be doing it.
Yeah.
With Feige, he never follows these stories beat for beat. So
exactly.
It's sometimes he'll switch out characters, so you never know. You got to keep us on our feet. But you're right. I think what they did with Agnes is they escalated what was already set up in that previous episode, where Vision really gets the first hint with
Mhm.
his neighbors that things are not right in Westview. And I think this just furthered it to the point where he does have a mental breakdown where Darcy sends a message and he removes whatever enchantment, spell, or charm are on these people from one individual and hears the pain. Something that I've heard people point out, though, is in that moment, I think his name is Neil or Norm. He just refers to she. And we don't know who she is. And so some people are saying it could potentially be Agnes.
Right. I've heard that.
Which I thought was really clever, and would be a good spin on it, that it's not Wanda in everyone's minds. It's Agnes. Something else that I noticed in this episode was the commercials. The more I look at these commercials, because we got Legos paper towels, which is a reference to Civil War.
Right.
And is that I go back to my original statement about these. I do think the commercials in particular are Wanda's bubbling subconscious of memories. Because and it's also structured in a way where I feel like if we were to go back and timeline out all of the commercials, the references I think are probably going to be in sequence of the MCU movies.
Yeah.
Because you had Hydra in Winter Soldier, and that was a clear reference towards the beginning of the season, which, correct me if I'm wrong, we first met Wanda technically as an end credit scene in Winter Soldier.
I believe so. That's right. Because it was, because that was before. Yeah, it was before Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we get Legos, and I'm skipping a whole bunch. But I think that it might be Wanda's subconscious, and then normally we get 2. I'm pretty sure we only got 1 in this episode. So I think the other commercials are potentially either Dormammu or Mephisto, kind of like counter programming.
Yeah.
Man, if that's true, Will, this is why this show should probably get an Emmy next year.
Yeah, you're right. You're totally right. And yeah, and I think you're right as far as the commercials. These commercials are Wanda's subconscious bubbling through, and the Legos, because they did it in a very smart way too, for folks who haven't followed the MCU as closely as we have, where it's still accessible to the viewer, because at the beginning of the episode, whenever they were at SWORD's field headquarters, the SWORD director and Jimmy Woo, brought up the whole situation in Lagos. And so, so that way, so for the uninitiated, whenever you saw the commercial down the road in the episode, you would be like, oh, okay, you can, if you're a real discerning viewer, you'll be able to, pick up on that point that, oh yeah, that's, the whole mess of things happen, there. But for us longtime, fans of the universe, you're right. I mean, I think you have really nailed the point of these commercials, which is there are points along the way in that we've seen from their introduction to now, and it'll be interesting with the upcoming remaining episodes as we get other commercials. I guess thinking of things next, and as far as Wanda, I guess there'll be I guess we'll have Germany as far as the as far as the next issue that comes up, and then of course we'll see the events of Infinity War, and maybe something else too that I'm blanking on.
Yeah, I don't know, but we got more in store, but I want to talk about Wanda because Wanda does so many different things in this episode. And as much as Vision is having this epic breakdown and realization that not only things are not right in Westview, but things are not okay with him. That line he delivers, I can't remember who I was before Westview, is chilling.
It is.
But to counterpoint that or juxtapose that, we have Wanda, who goes from constantly in this episode switches back and forth between her sitcom self versus Wanda, I am trying to keep everything under control. And then we actually see, I'm just going to say it, Scarlet Witch. We true Scarlet Witch fashion. And when she breaks through the barrier and starts speaking in her infamous accent, and I say infamous not because it's good, but it's the accent.
It's the accent, yep. We've been looking for the accent, and here it is.
Yeah, and the fact that they are smart enough to hint at X-Men in that scene because of the parallel to the first X-Men movie with Magneto and the police. I couldn't believe it. It was so cool to see it, and then retrospectively to align it with that moment in X-Men. It's like, hey, this is beautiful. Like this, to go back to your point, Will, I understand these references completely. You lost me in the first few episodes, but A, I didn't grow up with those sitcoms, and B, those were really, really far-reaching Easter eggs. Very ingrained in the... But we're, like, as the decades are growing, it's becoming more accessible, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I wonder what that says.
Well, I think that says the brilliance of the storytelling of this, and and some folks jumped on board. I think a lot of it was, I think some of us is fan brand loyalty. Some of us who, like I said, when we first started talking about this, Wanda and Vision weren't like characters that I really gravitated towards in the MCU originally. So yeah, it took me a little bit of time, but because of, like you said, the familiarity of use of these more recent sitcoms, really, and using those tropes to build on the bigger thing that's going on as far as Wanda and her control and her reanimating Vision and using the interesting thing that I hope they really touch on is why sitcoms is the method that Wanda is using to deal with her trauma. Because I don't, now that Darcy and Jimmy, I think, and we'll probably get it some, in some exposition from Darcy and maybe from Monica whenever she has additional interactions. What was the driving force for why Wanda picked why did Wanda pick sitcoms? I mean, were they watching them in Sokovia, or did she envision, was this one of the things they bonded over at X-Men headquarters? Because we had those scenes when, was it in Civil War where everybody else went off? Pepper Posh. They bonded over cooking.
You're forgetting though the possibility that Wanda didn't choose sitcoms.
True.
Whoever is pulling that other string. I mean, we not only saw Scarlet Witch in that one moment when she breaks through, but there was also reference to her taking Vision's body. And at that point, that did not look like Scarlet Witch or Wanda. That looked like somebody being controlled, almost like a zombie. But then again, I mean, there's so many different pieces of dialogue to break down with that, because they mention how Vision made it a point where he didn't want his body to be used,
right,
the weapon. And I think it's fascinating that Sword had his body and was dismantling it, for all we know, to get the code. So I don't know. It's just Sword, Hayward and Sword not looking too good right now either.
They're not. They're not.
And then what I really liked was that conversation: is she a terrorist or is she grieving? Because and that's something that they really, with all of Wanda's actions throughout this episode, they really made it a point to make sure you recognize that she on one hand, she does have all of these people in this state and is keeping them held hostage and has interrupted their lives, very much like Thanos snapped a bunch of people out of existence and interrupted their lives. But at the same time, she is mentally unstable with the amount of grief and loss and just this life that she's led, where she maybe found herself in the comfort of the wrong person. Right.
Yeah. And and that's a very good point. And to your counterpoint with my why sitcom she pick it, maybe that is the counter programming that, who really is pulling the strings here, is utilize the sitcom construct to help her deal with all the loss that she's suffered, from losing Vision, losing her brother, and all the other situations that we've seen replayed in the commercials now.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about reality, and we're talking about Wanda's power based is manipulation of reality. So to sitcom seems really logical to me, just because that it is escapism. It is and what they went after is she was in love and had her heart. She had to literally rip her heart out of herself in a way, with what she had to do to Vision. And so she found solace in this idea that, well, if I make everything like it is on the TV show, then all can be right. We can have our disagreements, but we'll always resolve the issue. We'll always learn our lesson and move forward. We'll have that normal, quote unquote, life. Right.
And that was a very interesting point, with her, with the twins, with their sons, because she's trying to deal with this escapism, or someone is trying to help her escape from the loss that she has suffered. But then when they were dealing with the story with Sparky, and then when Agnes brings Sparky out of the the azalea bushes, and again I think this is it gets to this point about Agnes being the manipulator, because but really forcing Wanda to address the reality of that she's trying to escape from, because the boys are ready to age up again so that they could escape from the loss of the dog. But then Wanda, in this case, maybe the real Wanda is coming through and just like, no, you've got to deal with loss. You can't just wish things away. And this, this is a, well, of course, Jimmy, obviously, has a little throwaway line to the Sokovia Accords about, it being prohibited. And maybe Wanda holding on to her sense of right and wrong, and knowing, and also knowing the lessons from Civil War that Cap and Tony had, fought over the Sokovia Accords in that film. She's trying to impress that upon her sons that, hey, there are some lines that we shouldn't cross, and maybe she's also trying to just reconcile what she's done reanimating Vision.
Yeah, Yeah, I see. This episode, even when I say, well, the ending really sold it. I mean, that scene you just described was a great moment. The scene before with Vision and Norm, a great moment, because the escalation of reality finding its way to Vision and Wanda, and realization of this isn't right. This isn't how things are. We are doing something wrong, and trying to say, nope, we'll try it again. We're going to redo this take because all is right and I am happy and I want to keep that at all costs.
Yeah.
And was just like, they walked the perfect line, and you're like, I love that moment. I love that moment when it's, but and I even feel like one of the kids says, but you bought Fitz back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just the horror of it, and I always think, when I was watching this episode in particular, I always thought about those moments. There are episodes in a lot of those 80s sitcoms which go really dark, and in a place, and it's always this well-known episode, and you're kind of like, oh, what really happened? And they never touch on the subject again, but I think I wonder if Feige was just like, okay, so we just got to get them to the 80s.
Yeah.
The 80s could really blow shit up.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Our demographic, our audience is like, they're going to know this. It's going to be familiar. This is when we're going to drop all the shit on them so they can really like, oh, this is why you did this in the 60s and the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Right.
Now we see why. Because,
Right.
Yeah, because I'm that viewer. I am there. I was not feeling it at first. I love the concept, but I wasn't feeling it. But now I am, and you're right. I mean, I think those shows did go to dark places, and then and get back to your point about the credits rolling, when Wanda was trying to make everything right again. Well, when Vision was like, I can't remember my life before Westview. I can't, and why are the other children in Westview? That was another important point that he raised, trying to deconstruct what's going on here. And then and then of course Wanda does the credit flex, but it Vision comes out of the kitchen in his natural state and his normal state, and to see the two Avengers about to throw down, it was just like, all right.
Yeah. And then they're interrupted with the ring of a doorbell.
Mm-hmm.
And
like typical sitcom.
Yeah, and it's the brother.
Yeah.
The recast.
The recast. Yeah. Breaking that fourth wall again.
Darcy. Love Darcy. Darcy is kind of just sitting back and like, Feige, you screwed me over with those Thor movies, so you better make it right. I didn't care much for her character before, but she's really doing a great job in this show.
Yeah.
It's I just and I didn't pick up on that. Like they crafted in such a way, to your point, classic. They end and you think there's going to be like the tension is ripped with the ring of a doorbell, and suddenly something else comes to mind. But I also, this episode and even the previous few, it's all about the twins and the real remembrance that she was a twin. And this isn't just about the loss of Fitz, but the loss of Pietro. So the fact that he comes back, and I know there's all these rumors that it's not Pietro. It's also not Quicksilver. It is Mephisto, which I think is interesting.
Well, I think, whenever we were stumbling our way through the news earlier about Spider-Man and the multiverse, I was really thinking that now the wall is broken down between Disney and Fox. I mean, now that and the whole, getting real world for a moment. So getting back into the comic world, you can have this happen now, because remember, Far From Home takes place after this show, as far as in the MCU timeline. So I was thinking about this because we when we saw Homecoming, at the end of, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Far From Home, we see Peter meeting J. Jonah Jameson from the Sony films. And so I forgot
about that because it was a decade ago.
Exactly. So I'm thinking now, well, you know what? It makes sense that that you could have Toby and McGuire show up, or Andrew show up, because timeline wise, when you open up, this thinking about how this movie is going to spin off the Doctor Strange, but also thinking about, now that we got the timeline of this, that we know it's only 9 days or so after the blip, the multiverse, this is our introduction to the multiverse, at least in the MCU world, and to those characters, even though, we saw it real world and Far From Home, to these characters, now we see the multiverse. And so I think you can have Quicksilver from the X-Men films come over and introduce the X-Men this way. And also, tie in Magneto being their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right that it's probably not Mephisto. It's probably is Quicksilver, and they're doing the cross the universe or the multiverse. But I don't know where I was going with this. I don't know. I just think random things. Yeah. It is what it is.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking through all the things we've learned, like even at the Disney Investor, with spinoff and a couple other spinoffs that.
Oh, I know what I wanted to say now.
That with the drone, with the Stark Tech and stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
That Evan Peters was the best cast X-Men. So I don't want all of the other X-Men from that franchise. I hope they do recast them. Jennifer Lawrence isn't going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, the little line about the Fantastic, with the aerospace engineer, you could have the Fantastic Four. I mean, Reed Richards. So I mean, there's any number, and you can do recast with some of these. With if you bring them into the MCU with the multiverses, have our own version of them.
Yeah.
But with Quicksilver from the X-Men verse coming in, the Sony verse coming in, that introduces the mutant gene to the MCU now. That you can turn that, you have that option, and the other thing too, maybe that's how on some level Wanda recognizes him. Just little theory spiraling there. Hadn't done that in a while.
You went all in. You already disowned the show, so.
I went from disowning it to I'm throwing crap out there now that probably won't happen, but we'll see. There was the whole Olsen thing last week too about the Luke Skywalker-esque spoiler, character, surprise showing up. So I don't think this is that level, but. So we still have more to come.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to come. I mean, we got a few more episodes, and they're all going to be 20 minutes. All right. On that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk, WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at SNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.